There's a baseball stadium in Miami that cost taxpayers over $500 million. Within months of opening, the team ownership gutted the roster, traded away every star player, and turned one of baseball's most exciting teams into a punchline. Attendance collapsed, fans felt betrayed, and the public was left holding the bill for a palace that nobody wanted to visit anymore. This is the story of how Marlins Park destroyed the Miami Marlins. Let's go back to the beginning. For years, the Florida Marlins played at what was then called Sun Life Stadium in Miami Gardens, a football venue they shared with the Dolphins. It was hot, it was outdated for baseball, and attendance was pretty abysmal. The team had won 2 World Series championships, but they couldn't seem to build a loyal fan base. Ownership kept saying the same thing over and over. We need a new stadium, a real baseball-only park, or we can't compete. So they pushed for public funding, hard. And after years of negotiations, debates, and political pressure, Miami-Dade County and the city of Miami agreed to finance the construction of a brand new retractable roof ballpark in Little Havana. The total cost of Marlins Park was somewhere around $640 million, with the public covering roughly $500 million of that through bonds and other financing. Taxpayers were now on the hook for decades of debt payments. The stadium opened in April of 2012. It was flashy. It had this controversial home run sculpture in center field that would light up and spin whenever the Marlins hit one out. The roof could open and close. It was air-conditioned, everything the old stadium wasn't. And heading into that season, the Marlins looked competitive. They'd signed big-name free agents like Jose Reyes, Mark Buehrle, and Heath Bell. They still had stars like Giancarlo Stanton and Josh Johnson. This was supposed to be the new era. The stadium would bring fans, the team would win, and everyone would be happy. Then the season happened. The Marlins finished in last place. Attendance was disappointing despite the shiny new park. And ownership, led by Jeffrey Loria, apparently decided they'd spent too much money and needed to slash payroll immediately. So, in November of 2012, just months after the stadium opened, the Marlins made one of the most lopsided trades in baseball history. They sent Jose Reyes, Josh Johnson, Mark Buehrle, and 2 other players to the Toronto Blue Jays in exchange for mostly prospects and salary relief. In one move, they dumped over $160 million in commitments. The team went from trying to compete to full rebuild mode overnight. Fans were furious. This wasn't just a bad baseball decision. This felt like betrayal. The public had just funded a stadium under the promise that it would help the team compete, that it would justify the investment, that it would bring winning baseball to Miami. Instead, ownership took that new revenue stream, decided it wasn't enough, and immediately gave up on winning. And this wasn't some accident or unforeseen circumstance. The fire sale looked deliberate. It looked like ownership never really intended to sustain a high payroll. They got their stadium, they got their public subsidy, and then they cashed out. Attendance collapsed. In 2013, the Marlins averaged under 20,000 fans per game, one of the lowest figures in baseball. The stadium that was supposed to solve the attendance problem made it worse, because now fans weren't just staying away from a losing team, they were staying away from a team that had actively dismantled itself after taking their tax dollars. The political fallout was immediate. Miami-Dade County Mayor Carlos Alvarez, who had championed the stadium deal, was recalled by voters in 2011 before the park even opened, partly because of the backlash over the cost. Local officials who supported the deal faced intense criticism. There were lawsuits. There were investigations into whether the Marlins had misrepresented their finances to secure public funding. Documents later suggested the team may have been more profitable than they'd claimed during negotiations, which only made the whole thing look worse. And taxpayers? They were stuck. The bonds that financed the stadium didn't disappear just because the team stopped trying to win. Miami-Dade County was locked into paying off that debt for decades. Some estimates suggested the total cost with interest could exceed $2 billion by the time everything was paid off. That's money that could have gone to schools, infrastructure, public transit, anything else. Instead, it went to a stadium for a team that immediately stopped caring about winning. The Marlins stayed bad for years. They kept trading away any player who became valuable. Giancarlo Stanton, one of the best players in baseball, was eventually traded away too in 2017 after Loria sold the team to a new ownership group led by Derek Jeter and Bruce Sherman. That new group came in and did another fire sale, getting rid of Stanton, Marcell Ozuna, D. Gordon, and Christian Yelich. Same pattern, different owners. By the way, when Loria sold the team in 2017, he reportedly made around $1.2 billion. He'd bought the team years earlier for much less, got a publicly funded stadium that increased the franchise value dramatically, and walked away enormously wealthy. The taxpayers who funded that stadium saw none of that upside. Marlins Park still stands today. The team rebranded as the Miami Marlins. They've had a couple of brief playoff appearances, but attendance remains among the lowest in baseball. The stadium itself is fine. It works, it's comfortable, but it's often empty. There are games where you can see entire sections with nobody sitting in them. The atmosphere feels hollow. And here's the thing. This isn't just a story about bad baseball management. This is about how stadium deals work in America. Cities and counties get pressured by team owners who threaten to leave if they don't get public funding. Politicians, afraid of losing a team and looking bad, cave and push through deals that commit taxpayers to decades of debt. The owners get their stadium, which increases the value of their franchise. And then, because there's no actual requirement to field a competitive team, they can do whatever they want. They can slash payroll, they can rebuild, they can trade everyone, and the public has no recourse. Miami got played. The people who approved this deal may have believed ownership's promises about building a winner. Maybe they thought the stadium would genuinely transform the team and boost the local economy. But the evidence suggests those promises were empty. The moment the stadium was built, the incentive to spend on players disappeared. The revenue was guaranteed. The franchise value increased. Why keep spending? There are other examples of stadium deals gone wrong across the country, but few are as blatant as Miami's. The speed of the betrayal, the scale of the public investment, and the sheer boldness of gutting the roster right after opening the doors made this one stand out. Today, Marlins Park is a monument to misplaced trust. It's a reminder that when public money gets handed over to private owners with no strings attached, the public usually loses. The stadium will be standing long after the players are gone, long after the fans have given up, and long after anyone remembers what it was supposed to achieve. But the debt? That'll be around for a while too.